All right, President Trump throwing another controversial curveball in Singapore by pledging to put an end to the long-standing joint military exercises with South Korea. Watch.
We will be stopping the war games, which will save us a tremendous amount of money, unless and until we see that the future negotiation is not going along like it should. But we'll be saving a tremendous amount of money. Plus, I think it's very provocative.
Provocative. The president also said he wants to bring U.S. troops back home from the region, but added that's not part of the negotiations at this point. So is the president giving up more than he's getting from Kim Jong-un? Let me go to tonight's panel. She's a senior director at Bustle.com, Fox News contributor as well. Jessica Tarlov is here, along with Townhall.com political editor and co-host of the fantastic radio show Benson and Harf on Fox News Radio, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Guy Benson. And Kim Jong-il, biographer and host of the podcast You're Welcome. It is Michael Malice, the only person here who's been to North Korea. Welcome, everyone.
Hey.
Greatness. So since you have been there and you understand the stakes better than anyone I know, did the president get played?
No, I mean, not in the slightest. I mean, did you see his body language? All his body language was about dominance and leading the way and asserting this fatherly paternal role in a nation where, you know, you're deferred to elder statesmen. I think that video President Trump showed Kim Jong-un was masterful. He was giving Kim Jong-un the opportunity to be like, you are the one who can lead your people to peace and prosperity.
See, I felt the same way. I have issues with the president, don't get me wrong, but I thought that was really smart because if there's one thing North Korea understands, it's propaganda.
Yeah, it's like, this is your chance. You could be the hero of your people. This isn't about me, it's all about you. I mean, again, he's a salesman for decades, and that was his forte. So I think this is going in a very wonderful direction, and I think it's very, very sad that people who can't even pronounce Kim Jong-un's name correctly are going on the air and just throwing, you know, soil on this. And I wish the left was as supportive of this summit as they had been of George W. Bush's invasion of Iraq.
Oh, my gosh, Jessica, I have to go to you next because...
That's shocking.
You know, I agree because you and I have spoken about this, and I've talked to other Democrats, and they have all said, we want this to work out. We will be supportive of the president if this works out. It appears that it's working out, but it's nothing but naysaying and resistance.
Well, there were also those...
That's not gonna resonate with voters.
It is not going to resonate with voters, and we were talking earlier on Outnumbered about the 15 progressives that signed that letter going against Chuck Schumer and Bob Menendez and kind of the establishment Democrats in being so negative about the summit and saying these are the things that you must get out of him. And they're saying, hold on, wait a minute. If peace is the goal, let's see how trying things a little bit differently works out for us. And
if
that
those are your true intentions, which hopefully they are.
Yes, I think that everybody involved, no matter what you want to say about them, would rather peace than nuclear war here. And I think, yes, it obviously speaks to some divisions within the Democratic Party, but like you were talking about in your opener, in your opening conversation with Sean Spicer, you know, voters are not the same as they used to be. I mean, Republicans voted for a non-Republican, right, in Donald Trump. And all politics is local. And when Ro Khanna and other progressives come in and they say, hey, we are the Dove Party. We are not the Hawk Party. And I'm willing to say that to Chuck Schumer's face and anyone else who tells me that we need to be ready to go to war if we don't get X, Y, and Z things. I think it's a very good sign for the election, the impending election and the midterms, but the party overall.
You know, Guy, doesn't it make your message more authentic and more trustworthy if, you know, I understand resistance. They want the presidency back in 2020. They want to sweep the House in the midterms and maybe even take the Senate. But going against every single thing the president does, it seems futile for Democrats.
And they should really pick their spots. I think some of it is retaliation politically for the Republican criticism of the Iran deal, which I think was justified, and the Iran deal was terrible. But they're saying, okay, if that wasn't good enough for you guys, then Trump better deliver the goods and then some with North Korea. I think that's part of what's motivating them. I think, look, I am hopeful about what Michael said. I am hopeful that this is the turning of a new leaf and the opening of a new chapter and all the good analogies. I just cannot shake the 25 years of 8 promises very similar to this one that have been broken. The big fundamental open question is Kim Jong-un going to embrace the change mantle? Does he actually mean it this
I think he is for a different reason, but I want you to answer that question.
I mean, the difference I would say is that Kim Jong-il is a very different person from Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-il only spoke once in public. Kim Jong-un is so much more gregarious, and he's not a function of the Cold War like his father was. So this gives him an opportunity, who knows if he'll take it, to liberalize North Korea.
All right, and we'll discuss much more of this. The panel is returning a little bit later in the show, and we've got some different angles to tackle, including capitalism in North Korea, and the highly anticipated Inspector General report on the conduct at the FBI and DOJ during the 26 campaign. That's coming out Thursday. So what should we expect? Chris Steyerwalt has his crystal ball and a turban. He is psychic, and he is next. There are many reasons Kim Jong-un would want to give up his big boy arsenal and join the global community. For one, there's a lot more Swiss cheese for a globe-trotting reformed despot who's willing to leave his cozy hermit shell. Kim Jong-un is a millennial who has the same longing for selfies, avocado toast, and undeserved fame as every other one of his generational counterparts. Well, sure, his murderous streak is wider than Michael Moore's waistband, but by appealing to his vanity and distracting him with capitalist baubles, the president may use just enough sleight of hand to make this damn thing work. So how do you distract a nuke-happy man-baby? Show him a neat car that goes fast and shoots things. Cynics say the only reason the president is hell-bent on making this deal is to plop a few Trump hotels and condos on North Korea's lonely shores. Well, Trump is a real estate junkie, and of course he's going to find his happy place as dollar signs light up his eyes while he ganders the pristine no-co topography. It's like asking a gambler to walk through a casino and not think about hitting a 21 on blackjack. If the alternative to nuclear annihilation is some gaudy Pyongyang condo complex, then the choice is pretty easy. Now, of course, the difficult work lies ahead, and the scant details have to be fleshed out for what is hopefully a lasting, once unthinkable peace. Capitalism failed to take root and topple theocratic regimes after the Arab Spring, but North Korea has a lot more in common with Eastern Europe. And once those stunted, imprisoned kids taste Coca-Cola and rock and roll, there's no putting the genie back in a labor camp. And that's the memo. Part of the president's presentation involves showing Lil Kim a video of what he's missing. Watch this.
A new world can begin today. One of friendship, respect, and goodwill. Be part of that world, where the doors of opportunity are ready to be opened. Investment from around the world, where you can have medical breakthroughs, an abundance of resources, innovative technology, and new discoveries.
I want drones and MRI machines and Whole Foods. Now, critics say it looks more like a North Korean propaganda film than an ad for American capitalism. But will Kim Jong-un be swayed by the glitz and glamour of our Western world? Michael Malice, I know we talked about the video a little bit earlier in the show, but I do think that there is something about the gadgets and the spoils of capitalism that is the strongest siren call for
Well, also specifically Singaporean capitalism. Singapore is one of...
and you say that that is not an accident that they made.
Correct. So Singapore is led by one of the two men who are the heroes of the new right, Pinochet and Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew, as the title of his autobiography is called, took Singapore from third world to first. And unlike those of us in the West, he didn't believe in equality. He said, if I tell my people that they're all equal, they're going to blame me for their misfortune. So it's a very authoritarian country. They have the death penalty for drugs. If you go in the airport on the way to Singapore, there's a garbage can there where they tell you, look, throw them out here, we're going to kill you. Being gay is illegal, but it's not enforced. It's only an issue when people become activists. So it's very much this kind of Giuliani to the nth degree. So this would be a much more natural transition for a North Korea than, say, a Sweden or a United States version of capitalism.
Yeah, because they still want societal control, which is kind of what they have in China. There's a lot of control over content and how people interface with some of that information. Is there a middle ground here?
Oh, it might be Singapore, although that's hyper-capitalistic, which is the opposite of what Kim Jong-un's regime is currently. But I was just there last year, and you describe it perfectly. It feels like you're in a first-world city, sort of Western, but with all the sort of flavors of Asia from various cultures around there, and then you do not spit on the ground or you are fined. You do
Caned?
get the... No, they have canings and that sort of thing. But I can imagine if you are someone who lives your entire existence, even in the most privileged existence possible, in your home country of North Korea, and you come to Singapore and you have the eyes of the world upon you and you're cheered when you walk into hotels and people want selfies, you are maybe getting a small taste of what life could be like if you weren't totally awful and crazy all the time anymore. Is that enough to convince Kim to liberalize? Maybe, but I think their number one concern is their regime staying in power and those security assurances.
But is it like convincing someone who has sex slaves to enter into a monogamous relationship?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's like.
That's right.
It's certainly a lot better than showing pictures of Gaddafi over and over again. And that's basically what happened right before we got to the summit point with John Bolton talking about, regime transition, and we all know what happened there. So I think that this was kind of the counterpoint to that, saying now that you come to the table, at least sat next to me, this is what might be possible.
But that's, okay, but that's also the difference, and that's a very important difference between communism and theocracies. Because in a theocracy, you still have people who are very angry, who abide by Sharia law and feel that they have been betrayed by someone who turned their back on those ideals. Whereas in a communist system, that's still, essentially an economic system.
Yes. I'm going to need more time to fully process that point. I'm sure Michael can
I'll just say
jump
that
on
there
it,
are
but
strong elements of theocracy in North Korea because, if you throw out a newspaper with the leader's picture on it, or you can't even use their stamps because it's the only country in the world where you can't use the stamps because you can't stamp the leader's face. Oh. So the iconography of the leadership is venerated. People are encouraged if their houses are being flooded, if there's a fire, to run in and grab the pictures of the leaders off the wall, even if they themselves die. So this is really a demented level of hero worship. Yeah. And they, in many ways, no longer identify as communism because whatever the leader says is the law. And basically, you have these black markets now, and they're pretending it's not capitalism, but it is capitalism in its purest form.
What about Scientology?
Are you feeling depressed? Ever feel alone? I've got a book I can recommend. The doors are locked from the outside.
No, as you may have noticed, because we got to move from one dear leader to another, Bill Clinton's been trying to befriend the Me Too movement, but because of his impressive ability to put foot in mouth, it's not working out. Check out this latest entry in his ongoing game of bad quote bingo.
I think the norms have really changed in terms of what you can do to somebody against their will, how much you can crowd their space, make them miserable at work.
Yeah, you used to be able to do so much to people against their will. Oh, well, the good old days. I think we all miss the 90s when you could just force people to do stuff.
He's also lost a step or two politically. He paused there.
Yeah.
He's like, things have changed.
Neurologically,
he goes, things have changed since, and then he pauses and then decides in that moment to say what he said, which is that you can't really do as much against people's will anymore.
The reaction shows that the media is so willing to bury the Clintons by this, because this is something, this interview didn't take place yesterday or the day before.
All of this has been brewing for a really long time, not just since the Me Too movement rose to power, but over the past couple decades, people have been looking at the Clintons and no one questions the achievements for the economy or national security, for instance, during the Clinton presidency. But there are many disgruntled Democrats who don't feel like they represent our values in the way that they used to.
No, you made that point earlier. Like, people have changed, and
people have changed, and
their loyalty to party has certainly changed.
Yeah.
Loyalty to party has changed. There will always be Clinton loyalists, and I think that that is important. And
I think that pool, though, is now shrunken into a hot tub.
Incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, in the 90s, you can kill Vince Foster and have no consequences for it. And nowadays, you kill Seth Rich, and, there's all sorts of people asking questions on Twitter.
Yeah,
so things have really changed for the Clintons.
They got a Pizzagate afterwards.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing that I think was quite positive is what a tough time Stephen Colbert gave Bill Clinton. That was potential after the first round of foot and mouth last week about
one tough
Monica.
Question.
No, but
that's a really tough time by those standards, I know.
But that's what I'm saying. For all the critics of late night TV and all of that it's just like a massage the Democrat Party, right? And
no, but if there's a safe person to turf, it's Bill Clinton. I mean, that's my point. The left wants to be done with the Clintons so they can bring in a new generation. There is no harm to anyone on the left coming out and saying the Clintons have lived past their welcome and they need to, in political terms, go somewhere and expire.
As Kristen Gillibrand demonstrated.
Yeah, exactly. She said he should have resigned.
As soon as she doesn't need them, she turns her back on the people who put her in power.
What an ingrate.
Yes.
She wouldn't be senator if it weren't for Hillary
Exactly.
Clinton. And her dumb Secretary of Stateness. Oh, look, there you guys are. Thank you so much, Michael, Kai, and Jessica. What a night. We're